I have been in the wedding industry for almost a decade, and during my time as a photographer, I've come to realize that there tends to be two types of brides the morning after the wedding. The first is the bride who feels like her wedding day was one of the most beautiful and fun days of her life. Everything went according to plan and her day couldn't have been more perfect. So when she went to bed that night, it was with a head full of great memories and a heart that was full and content and at peace. The second bride wakes up the following morning thinking, yesterday was magical, but the day kind of felt rushed and stressful and out of control, and I really hope that my wedding photos turn out alright. But what the second bride doesn't realize, and what most couples don't realize before their wedding day, is that how your wedding day feels to you will to some extent have an impact on how your photos turn out. And in this video, I'll be sharing with you planning advice that will help to protect both your images and your peace. Well, hello there good people, and thank you so much for watching this video. My name is Rachel. I'm the owner and lead photographer at Baskin Creative Co., a fine art wedding photography studio serving brides across Canada and destinations beyond. And this channel is where I help couples plan weddings that feel calm and intentional so that they photograph beautifully. So if you like the sound of that and you're planning a wedding, hit subscribe because I think you'll find a lot of clarity here. Now, you heard me mention at the start of this video that I would like to share with you planning advice that I believe will genuinely protect your photos, because let's face it, in the scenario that I described in the intro of this video, you would much rather be the first bride as opposed to the second bride, and I would rather that you be the first bride as opposed to the second bride. So let's dive right in and talk about 3 common mistakes that I see brides make over and over again when it comes to wedding photography, and how making slight changes in your thinking and how you approach your wedding day will make all the difference. Now, the first piece of advice that I'm going to share with you may cause you to raise an eyebrow at me, but just stick with me and hear me out. I promise that it will all make sense. When it comes to wedding photography and your wedding photos, I want you to make this shift in your mind and realize that pretty images aren't the goal. And this is where I can feel you raising that eyebrow, because when you're researching photographers online, one of the things that you are looking to see is, does this photographer take beautiful photos? But here's the thing. Of course the photographer you will hire takes beautiful photos. It's one of the basic requirements of them being able to do their job. So it should be a given, not a goal. And when you come to the end of your wedding day, you more than likely won't be wishing that your photos were prettier. But you may feel unease about what might be captured in your photos if your day felt rushed or tense or chaotic, especially if you feel like your wedding day timeline wasn't well planned or well executed. Here's the thing that most couples don't realize ahead of their wedding day as they step into their wedding day. The feeling of your wedding day, good or bad, stress or ease, will show up in your photos just as much as the design. It will show up in your body language. It will show up around your eyes, around your smile. It will show. And while it is my job as your wedding photographer to document your special day with skill and expertise and beauty, I cannot Photoshop out tension and stress that you may be feeling. But here's the good news. There is an easy fix, and that is to introduce calm into your wedding day. The beautiful thing about this is that you can introduce calm into your wedding day experience well ahead of time by working with tried and proven wedding vendors, delegating tasks, having and practicing healthy exercise and self-care routines, and getting enough sleep. Girl, just because you're planning a wedding doesn't mean you don't have to sleep because you're stressed. Girl, go to bed. You would be surprised at how having these factors working in sync with each other goes a long way in infusing calm into your actual wedding day. And that calm, once present in your wedding day, will create space, and that space will create room for natural moments to emerge, and it's those moments that photograph beautifully. So if you remember nothing else from all that I've just said, remember this: calm shows up in photos, and calm always photographs beautifully. The second piece of advice I'm going to share with you has to do with 3 hidden things that most couples don't realize will ruin their wedding photos if they aren't careful. Now, as someone who attends weddings professionally for a living, I've come to realize that there are 3 main culprits that can unwittingly, I don't want to say sabotage, but that will work against you and your desired result of having beautiful wedding images. And in my professional opinion, those 3 culprits are having overstuffed wedding timelines that create unrealistic expectations, having too many decision makers helping you plan your wedding, and hiring vendors that work in isolation instead of collaborating together to make sure that your wedding is the success that you envision it being. So let's break down these 3 things and look at why they are a problem and how you can overcome them to ensure that you have peace of mind when it comes to your wedding photos. Now, the first issue is having overstuffed wedding day timelines that create unrealistic expectations. And believe it or not, this is actually a very common mistake that I see most couples making, and I want to talk about why that is an issue. When your wedding day timeline is jam-packed to the rafters and almost every minute is planned to a T, you don't give yourself time to settle into any one moment. Constantly transitioning from thing to thing and moment to moment, that just doesn't leave room for genuine feelings and emotions to show. Remember, in my previous point, I talked about the importance of introducing and infusing calm into your wedding day so that calm can create space, and that space can create breathing room for natural moments to be documented and photographed beautifully. If every moment is planned and scheduled right down to the minute, it chokes out the room to breathe, and it's the breathing that makes photos so beautiful. So the simple fix here is to work with a seasoned wedding photographer and planner who are well versed in creating timelines that allow you to live in and be captured in the moment, as opposed to giving you 15 minutes to move from point A to point B. Now, don't get me wrong, when you book a wedding photographer, you are hiring them for a set period of time, and you do have to honor that time commitment. So it's in your best interest to work with a photographer who can create a feasible and realistic wedding day timeline that allows for ample time to breathe and for the vision of your wedding day to play out while also honoring the commitment that you and your photographer have made. Working with a wedding photographer to create a timeline that has breathing room will seamlessly flow you through your day from moment to moment and give you peace that the wedding day is being captured beautifully and authentically. The second issue is having too many decision makers and too many voices speaking into how you plan and execute your wedding day. Now, we're about to get a little heavy here, so I'm going to hold your hand and say this with love. Your wedding day is about you. I understand and see the value in having opinions that help to influence and guide you while you are wedding planning, but the key here is for those voices to help guide you along the wedding process, not commandeer and dominate your wedding planning process. I have found that when couples allow everyone who has an opinion, be it family, friends, social media for that matter, to take control of the wedding planning process and allow themselves to be silenced in favor of granting everyone else's wishes and living up to everyone else's expectations, that couple slowly begins to trade their presence for their performance. And when a couple starts to value other people's satisfaction with their wedding decisions, as opposed to creating a wedding day that feels true to them and honors who they are as a couple, they resolve to plaster fake smiles on their faces while begrudgingly going along with what everyone else is suggesting, while slowly dying inside. Now, this can negatively impact your wedding photography experience, because if you go along with creating a wedding that doesn't feel like you and that doesn't seem true to the celebration you wanted to have, then you will have a hard time loving and emotionally connecting to your images once I deliver them to you, because contained in those photos will be memories captured from a wedding that stopped being a reflection of you and started being about the fulfilled desires and expectations of others. And that's a shame. No matter how beautifully and skillfully I capture the images from your wedding day, they will not resonate with you because they do not reflect you. And again, that's a shame. But it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. Earlier I mentioned how couples can fall into the trap of trading their presence for their performance. So the remedy to that is to stay present. And the easiest way to do that is by, number one, being intentional and discerning in who you allow into your wedding planning circle. Having 2 or 3 people who you know that you can trust not to hijack your wedding will go far in giving you peace of mind and helping you carefully craft your special day, as opposed to having 10 people who are more interested in speaking their mind and opinion about your wedding plans, as opposed to hearing your heart about your wedding plans. And number 2, hire a wedding photographer and a wedding planner who will advocate for you. I get that sometimes it can feel hard to assert yourself and speak your mind, especially on something as sensitive as wedding planning, because you don't want to upset or hurt anyone's feeling. And it can feel as if everyone is emotionally invested, which, by the way, they are. How could they not be, right? So I get that you don't want to be the bad guy. But baby, I'm not scared to talk to your mom. Now, please don't hear what I am not saying. I would never disrespect your loved ones and those who you hold near and dear. But my job is to stand by your side and to ensure that you get the wedding that you want and that you desire, and that's translated into the wedding images that you receive. And the best way to do that is to help you stay present and engaged during the wedding planning process and on the actual day of the wedding. So if a conversation needs to happen in order for us to achieve that goal, then I am happy to have a productive conversation advocating for you that helps us to achieve that. So here's what you can take away from everything that I've just said. You remaining present, especially on your wedding day, is what allows for moments to unfold naturally, and the most beautiful wedding images come from presence, not performance. The third issue is hiring vendors who work in isolation and do not collaborate and work together to make your wedding a success. Now, I want you to lean in close on this one, because I'm going to share something that I don't think many brides and couples are told when planning their weddings. And it's this: simply hiring the best of the best when it comes to your wedding vendor team, that alone is not a guarantee that your wedding day will run perfectly. Now, you want to work with seasoned, proven, and professional wedding vendors to be sure, but here's the thing. Great wedding vendors don't work well, nor do they produce their best work alone. They work well and produce their best work when they are part of a well-oiled and collaborative team. The only way your wedding day can go off without a hitch is if all your wedding vendors are working together as a team with the single-minded goal of making your wedding day a beautiful experience for you. So in other words, you need to make sure that your chosen vendor team is not only tried and proven, but aligned, both with the overall vision of your wedding day and with each other. When your photographer, your planner, your floral designer, your venue, your whole vendor team, when everyone is aligned, your day just flows so seamlessly and effortlessly. And conversely, if your vendor team is out of alignment, then there is tension within the group, and the camera will pick up on that. Now, you may be thinking, well, Rachel, as a seasoned wedding professional, isn't it your job to make sure that you only capture all the best moments? And to that, I would say you are exactly right. It is my job to make sure that your wedding day is photographed with skill, expertise, and beauty. However, I cannot capture what was not there to begin with. If there is chaos because the venue is not set up on time and the floral design is running late and the hair and makeup went too long because they weren't aware of the timeline, all of those things going wrong are outside of the scope of what I'm able to do as your photographer. And as I document how the day is playing out, any tension present on your wedding day, especially on you, it will show because you are tense, and that shows in your images. Now, it's not all doom and gloom, because yet again there is an easy fix, and you've already heard me say it, which is to work with aligned vendors. The best way to achieve this is to have a wedding planner who advocates for you by ensuring that the rest of your chosen wedding vendor team is always kept abreast of your wedding plans and any developments that arise. Also, working with a team of aligned vendors who have worked together before and have a healthy and established rapport and communication, that goes a long way in making sure that your wedding runs smoothly. The main takeaway from everything that I've just said is that a wedding day runs best when all the vendors are aligned. Now, with all of that said, I do want to talk about the single most important wedding planning decision that you're going to make as you are going through this wedding planning process. If there is one thing that I want you to take away from everything I've just said, hear me say this. The most important planning decision you will make as you go through the wedding planning process isn't to do with your aesthetic or your color palette or even your wedding day timeline. The most important planning decision that you will make as you go through the wedding planning process is choosing vendors who lead with calm. When it is done right, their calm and gentle leadership should be almost invisible to you on your wedding day, but it will be painfully obvious when the calm is missing from your wedding day, and everything will feel much harder than it needs to be. Now, I want to close this video by ending on a positive note. So, as you're going through the wedding planning process, I want you to remember this. The goal is not about creating perfection, it's about creating space. Plan a wedding day infused with calm and space for you to fully inhabit and live in the moment, to feel, to connect, to embrace the day in its fullness and enjoy the day you've planned. Planning a wedding day should feel grounded and true to you and genuinely enjoyable to you and your guests. And just like that, we've come to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. I trust that this information was perhaps eye-opening and informative, and I would like to think that I gave you a bit of food for thought in this one. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you want more guidance and helpful information just like this as you go through the wedding planning process, I share even more inside of my weekly newsletter called The Velvet Envelope, and you can sign up for it by clicking on the link below. And if you're planning a wedding and you would like to inquire about my availability, you can do so by clicking on the link in the inquiry form, and I will get back to you as soon as I receive your message. Thank you again for your time and your attention. I look forward to connecting with you in the next video. Bye.